The Australian Ultimate League is only possible thanks to the generous support of our major partners. Bendigo Private Banking Services. Visit their website bendigoprivate.com.au to help you manage all your personal or business banking needs. Discraft. The leaders in flying discs for over 25 years. Their Ultrastar is the preferred disc of all World Championship events and the Australian Ultimate League. And Zone Ultimate Custom Sports Apparel. Check out their new range of custom warm-up jackets and pants at zoneultimate.com.
Hello and welcome to Game 3 of the Australian Ultimate League. We're here at AUL Park in Melbourne, Australia. I'm Max Stenstrom and alongside me is Lena Hall, and we're thrilled to bring you the matchup of Perth Power and the Canberra Freeze. Both of these teams looking to open their account for this competition and get things started. We'll have a look at the two rosters of both teams, bringing plenty of experience and talent from all over Australia. Lena, run us down through who we should be looking for in this game.
Well, I'll start with the Canberra Freeze team. Obviously some very familiar faces there, and we've got a great spread of experience from both our elite teams for representing Australia, but across the age group as well, and it's something I'm really looking forward to see that experience and the young up-and-comers coming together to form a great new team.
Yeah, some of those youngsters, Abby Dawson and Caitlin Grange, and having played together on the under-24s mixed team in Perth earlier this year. And they'll be coming up against some serious talent on the Perth side of the roster, drawing together stars from all over the country. Their #1 draft pick, Alex Shepherd, nigh on unstoppable in the end zone, racking up stats like nobody else's business. So if you've got him in the AUL Fantasy League, you should be happy with him. He's a safe pick. On the other end of the disc, expect to see Ash Martins putting that disc long. That's it, real throwing threat for Perth. And we'll have a chat to their coach now, Dan Withmon.
What are the main strengths of the other team?
For Canberra, they have a really speedy set of women, very fast on the field, and there's some really experienced, long-standing Australian representatives in the men as well, so really mixed on both sides of the gender pool.
Is there anyone specifically that you really want to shut down, like any of these speedy women or anything like that?
Yeah, so both the Hannah Monchi, Hannah Mangan will be looking to really match with speed in the women. And then with the men, some of the really tall, key experienced players like Matt Dowell and Jono Holmes, we're looking to match up with some really athletic youngsters who will hopefully have a future of Australian representatives ahead of them.
Is there any weaknesses there that you could try to get on top of?
For this team, they've been training together quite a lot. So we're thinking that with the systems that they're expecting and wanting to play, we want to really come in early and shut down systems and come in with a really strong, aggressive vibe to the game.
All right, great. And what is the main thing you want to tell your team ahead of this game?
For us, it's about really coming together early in the game because we haven't had a lot of a chance to train together. It's been about really enjoying and talking and trusting each other to get the job done, and hopefully that will see us through to the end.
Great, thanks very much. What are the main strengths of the Perth team?
Look, I think they're a bit of a mixed bag and a bit of an unknown bag for us as well. They have some really strong, speedy female receivers, and that's the main thing that we'll be looking at for this game.
Cool, so what strategies are you going to use to try and shut down that speed?
Well, we're going to try and get some good matchups. We also think we've got some speed on those female receivers as well, and really to lock in on our strong offensive lines as well. We've got some really good experience on those lines, so that's what we'll be trying to focus on.
Do you think the experience is something that will really help get you over the edge?
I think it will. I think particularly sort of with the weather conditions, it looks like that's going to be changing, so that'll create some challenges for us. And so hopefully that'll kind of help us sort of keep a sort of good focused head and to take those good options when they come up.
And do you have any specific matchups you will put on those speedy girls or on any of the receivers?
We're going to try and, well, I guess there's a couple, particularly with the women. Ash Martins is a really strong handler, trying to put someone on who can try and get a good height matchup. So maybe looking for Kim or Adelaide from the team or Caitlin. And on the men, we're really interested to see which handlers they're going to pull out. So they've got some good experience on their team as well, so we'll try and get some of our experienced players on them as well.
And so what's your big key focus for this game?
Offence. Possession's been really important for us, so just wanting to make sure that we're throwing to good, solid options when we can. We've had some good focus on trying to just get some quick, clean play, but still always possession is so important.
Great, thanks very much.
Well, fantastic to hear from both the coaches, Sarah Brereton and Liz de Hoog for the Canberra Freeze, and I think they raised some really interesting points about the differences in the team, Canberra having had the opportunity to train together quite a bit in the lead up to the AUL, whereas Perth, with people coming from all around Australia, really having to build on that trust initially, and then this being the time that they can build those connections. So it'll be really interesting to see how it plays out.
That kind of chemistry could be decisive in these kind of conditions. We've got a pretty strong wind coming left to right on your screens as you're watching, and we know that's tricky at the best of times, but especially so for a team that hasn't had that opportunity to build the chemistry, get used to each other's natural style. As you say, they've got players from all over the country, many of whom who've never played on the same field, let alone on the same team as each other. So today will be a real challenge for them.
And I think, as Liz de Hoog for Canberra pointed out, possession and offence is going to be really crucial to this match, especially in these conditions. If you've got the frisbee, you can't lose, and that's going to be a focus for both of the teams today.
She also mentioned experience, and I think again in these kind of conditions experience can be a crucial factor. Perth isn't short on it, but you'd have to say that the Canberra side has slightly more, with players like Matt Dowell and Jono Holmes. Between them, almost innumerable numbers of Australian representative appearances for them both. As crazy as these conditions are today, it's nothing new for them. They've done it all before, and they'll be looking to those two players to be the steady leaders when things get tough and things get gritty and grimy, which is when those two players really excel. I know Holmes especially loves a dogfight, and this may just be one.
Yeah, and I think that perhaps, Perth may be coming into this with something to prove as well, and that'll be really interesting to see, as the coaches said, who's going to step up for the AUL and who's going to step up in these conditions particularly. So I'm really looking forward to getting this match underway and seeing how it all plays out.
So am I. I mean, it's windy, it's cold, some may even say freezing, which really plays into the hands of this Canberra team that we see now as the coaches deliver their final messages. Liz de Hoog and Chris Stevens providing that tactical leadership, both of them with an array of experience in that coaching role. Liz de Hoog having led the factory team to some great success in the last couple of years, and Chris Stevens, of course, also having done plenty of coaching. He's no stranger to this leadership role as well. This team now getting prepared, saying their final words. We'll look to see from them how they look to approach this match, whether they start looking to take advantage of their height or their speed. They're not short on either. Generally speaking, I'd say their women bring the speed and athleticism, and the men bring that height and experience, generally speaking.
And here we cross over to the Perth Power, enjoying that driving rain and getting ready for their final psych up before their first AUL match.
The Perth are being coached by Max Howden and Sarah Brereton, both soon to be head coaches of under-24 campaigns in the near future. Sarah leading the under-24 women, the Stingrays, and Max leading the under-24 mixed team, the Blue Bottles. So congratulations to them on those appointments, and they'll be bringing their skills to bear in leading this Perth team in some pretty tricky conditions.
Really exciting to see Australian Ultimate building a great set of coaches. It's great to see experienced people coming back to the job and new people building as well. I think it's a really great thing for Australian Ultimate across the board.
Yeah, there's been an investment in upskilling those young coaches, and it's starting to really pay off with people such as Sarah and Max coming to the fore now. And it looks like Perth will be commencing this match on defence. And this is a game to 13. And it is 6-on-6 gender equitable professional ultimate. So this is a pretty unique experience. So if you're at home, get excited on the edge of your seats for what's going to certainly be a highlight-filled match. It looks like it'll be Ryan Davey with the pulling duties, pulling right into the teeth of this wind. He's a Newcastle local who's been recruited by this Perth team to ply the trade that he's so often done for the Newcastle I-beam team, and he commences the match with a big outside in pull that rolls. And Canberra Freeze, Matt Dow will get things started. Here we bring the disc in on the sideline at about halfway, about 35 yards to go, marked by Ely. He's surveying downfield, look what his options are, doesn't like Mangan coming underneath, instead he goes deep, but can't connect. You see that wind pushing that disc into the ground, it's going to be tricky.
Yeah, Max, already in that first throw we see how the wind is going to impact, and I think that that's really going to be another player in the game essentially, and both teams are going to have to adjust.
Davey now looking at what his options are. He goes inside to Ely, you'd see that disc pop up. These players are going to find it tricky. He goes forehand back into the centre of the field and he can't connect.
Wow, this is going to be interesting.
It's a short field turn. This is the kind of position that Canberra will want to look to capitalise from. Dow picks it up. Handler for the Australian men's team many a time. Hopefully his skills prove sufficient. Into the hands of Grange. Coughs that one up cheaply, simply bobbled out of the hands. The wind and the cold maybe getting the better of her. Davey goes cross field. Calaviotis up the line. Now they're in space. Perth will look to take advantage of this quickly as Ely shoots deep. Cut out by Grange, but Brereton gets underneath it. Great grab, digs that one out. She comes near side to Calaviotis, looking to keep things moving. Perth not allowing Canberra to set up underneath it.
There you go. First point in that wind.
Peter Ely secures that one for Perth, and against all the odds, they break on the opening point of the match, going upwind into the teeth of a serious gale.
Wow, fantastic. Now, that D that we saw from Caitlin Grange, classic Grange, just waiting that little moment and getting that block, unfortunately, going straight in for her, straight into the hands of Brereton. Great pick up there.
It is classic Grange. She's known for a wily defence, reading the play, recognising where she needed to be and getting a hand to it. And then we saw that seventh player on the field, the wind, get involved and keep it up in the air just long enough for Brereton to use her length, make up that distance and dig it out inches above the turf. I think we've got to the point in this match where the wind is so strong that downwind isn't a particularly big advantage. It's difficult to complete passes in any direction.
Absolutely, and we saw that those discs going cross field were just really bobbling or getting pushed down, so it's going to be really, really hard for these players, and it will make for some interesting ultimate.
It will indeed. Alex Shepherd, the #1 draft pick, will begin the second point of this match with a big outside in pull that will roll out the back and will be fielded by young Dan Matthews-Hunter, a Canberra boy who's recently moved to Melbourne, but is now recognising his Canberran roots and coming to play for the Freeze. He'll be marked by Alex Tegan, the speedster from Sydney. And they look to run a side stack. Isolating players in space in the centre of the field. Grange comes underneath, but instead the swing goes to Dow. Dow surveys his options. He goes to Matthews-Hunter up line. Not a lot of space as Shea finds the disc. Perth looking to just play a pretty standard match offense as Dow unleashes a backhand. It's going to float. A pack underneath it. Who's underneath it? Jamin Shea, the youngster from Canberra, does well, drawing on his basketball background and simple miscommunication.
Matthews-Hunter in space and just couldn't connect.
Osborne ruthless with his forehand, shoots deep.
Great way to get it back, Matthews-Hunter there.
That's redemption for the oldest of 3 Frisbee playing brothers. His 2 younger brothers, Ben and Josh Matthews-Hunter, both playing ultimate in Canberra for Fyshwick United. Expect to see big things from them in years to come. Dowell again, but he tries the backhand to the open side, but it forced into the turf by this tricky wind. And Shepherd picks it back up, about 10 metres out. He'll look to get things done quickly. Breaks the mark, goes around to Gann. Gann comes back to the centre, ripped out by Mangan. A little too enthusiastic perhaps. An uncontested strip call. The disc will come back to DeLuca. Mangan having played on the Barramundi's Australian mixed team.
Great score again by Perth, so that's making it 2-0.
A lovely inside forehand there into the hands of Osborne for the goal. The wind just seeming to affect the Perth players a little less. They seem slightly more comfortable in these tricky conditions.
Yeah, I agree with you, Max. So we're only 2 points in, but definitely Perth seems to be connecting and getting the flow happening a little bit better than Canberra, who are just putting some great pressure on the D, but just struggling a little bit at this point in time with those connections.
Conventional wisdom would have said that in these kinds of tricky conditions where you're going to get lots of jump balls, the height that Canberra brings through players like Dowell and Stevenson, who we see now on the line, would be an advantage. But so far they haven't been able to make use of that particularly well, and have struggled most when just trying to complete small 5, 6, 7 metre passes around the disc. They haven't even had the opportunity.
And I think partly too, you know, while a lot of the Canberran players have played together over time, perhaps not so recently. So for them too, there is a bit more of establishing connections again.
Matt Dowell in particular, an old school Canberra player, but of recent times has been living and playing in Sydney, so that's probably a case there where they need to refine that chemistry that does exist but just needs to be rediscovered. As Holmes scoobers over the top.
Classic Holmes.
He's not afraid of the wind. And Stevenson, the New Zealand import, he won't waste any time. Big arcing forehand in and out of the hands of Hannah Monty.
Monty in heaps of space there up the back, which is well known for getting into that space. Just can't quite hold on to it, and Perth with the disc.
She's extremely fast, Hannah Monty. She's a dual international representative, having played ultimate and Quidditch for Australia. And we see her now in this ultimate format, of course. Perth work it to the high side in this breeze and down the sideline. Canberra opting for the simple match defence, playing one-on-one, trusting their athleticism in these tricky conditions to generate turns. Martin's marked by Dennis, and a huge bid from Hannah Mangan. That's an incredible play. Apologies, Abby Dawson. What a play against Rebecca Brereton.
Great to see.
Abby Dawson, one of the real youth talents coming out of Canberra. Only picked up the game in recent years, but her athleticism, as you saw just there, truly incredible. And Holmes finds Dawson underneath. Dawson comes near side to Liu, the lefty. Stevenson, forehand down the line, Dawson in space, bookends!
Fantastic.
Canberra Freeze respond through Abby Dawson, gets the huge layup block and is rewarded with the huck from Stevenson down the line.
Sensational block down the other end, and then to be in that space again, really great. And great to see the Freeze working it from one sideline to the other and then using that space to put it out in front for Dawson, who was completely free in the end zone. As you mentioned, her athleticism is a real asset.
And maybe that's the tweak from the first couple of points. Initially we saw them trying to stand and deliver those hucks from the centre of the field. Credit to the coaching staff and to the veterans on that team, recognising that wasn't the best option, looking to dump and swing, change the angle, and then take that big shot, as you say, finding a little bit more success that time.
So we've got 2-1 now, 2 to Perth, 1 to Canberra on the scoreboard now.
Canberra able to open their account. And Jono Holmes, one of the veterans of this team and of Australian Ultimate, and a recent new father, so congratulations to him.
Baby Edgar, no doubt watching at home.
And Canberra pull out the first interesting looking defence we've seen. We were wondering when they'd do this. Pull out one of their zones. We talked about how they've had a slightly more of an opportunity than many of these other teams to train together, and whether that would allow them to have a few more interesting defensive looks as they have now. And it looks like they've transitioned into match. And that one just through the hands of Murray Young. She can't quite hold on to it.
So that was an interesting transition there, just picking up the nearest players, and interesting that we've seen some mismatches gender-wise, but intentional ones, so looking for the closest player.
And proving effective in the end.
Absolutely.
Dawson on that sideline. Dennis that was, to Holmes. Holmes scoobers over the top. Everyone else struggling to throw in this wind, and Jono Holmes just throwing the scoobers left, right and centre. No fear from him. Stevenson back to Liu. That's Monty. To Dawson. Canberra doing well now. They've found their groove, and I speak too soon. That's the commentator's curse for you.
It was going to happen sooner or later, Max.
And that's probably the point of that Perth defence there. Force Canberra to throw a lot of passes, knowing that in this wind, eventually the mistake will come.
That's right. Oh, bobbles out of the hands there, and again, just not being able to hold on to it.
Holmes picks that up, gets things moving. They're about 15 yards out in the centre of the field. This is where they want it. Monty, backhand.
Lovely pass there from Monty to Dennis. Really nicely done. Just saw Dennis free in the end zone. Complete confidence from Monty to put that to her teammate, and it's 2-all.
Perth had jumped out to a quick 2-0 lead in this game, but Canberra has responded. They're able to keep their cool as Liz de Hoog, their coach, hoped they would in tough conditions and tricky situations. Have faith in their systems, and they're rewarded for it.
And Canberra definitely seeming to be able to hold on to that disc a little bit more after those first couple of points where they weren't really making those connections. Definitely coming together now, and obviously paying off for them.
And we see that growing confidence. They've felt comfortable branching out, pulling out one of their interesting zone transition looks. We've been wondering what that'll look like in this 6-on-6 format. Obviously a lot of ultimate 7-on-7. And adapting the conventional defensive wisdoms to this slightly different format is going to be interesting.
Let's see what they pull out this time.
Big pull from Dow. Blocked there by Davey. He'll send it to Martins, who's marked by Spragg.
And this is one of the matchups that de Hoog talked about in the first interview, coach's interview, Martins and Spragg.
Big backhand down the line in plenty of space, but Dow easily gets there. We see another choice by Canberra there, initiating a gender mismatch defence look. But that one cut out well. Martins now with the disc, forehand to the fat side of the field. That's a lovely throw. Brereton again holds on well. She's making use of the dark jersey to hide the dirt stains. And that's 3-2 to Perth.
Another great look from Brereton there into the end zone. Realised that the defender was not watching the disc and just put it out in front to her player, Calaviotis, and really, really great goal for Perth.
That forehand, especially from Martins, opening up heaps of space. Very tricky in a wind like this to get that kind of throw, not to turn over and blade into the turf. Great effort from her, and a great grab from Brereton to keep it alive.
So it'll be interesting to see, Max, what Perth decides to do in terms of defence here. So we've seen a couple of interesting Ds from Canberra. So whether Perth sticks with their match defence or they try something different.
We saw that last point. Matt Dow come down marking Brereton. Brereton's obviously one of the tallest females in the league, and Canberra just feeling like they didn't have the best matchup that they could put on her was the big, tall Matt Dow.
Jono Holmes just bobbles out of his hands, and we've got Perth with the disc just outside of their end zone.
Shepherd to Gann, beyond the outstretched bidding hands of you and makes quick work of it to Jerry Daub in the end zone. Ruthless with the disc there, Perth, punishing Canberra for a pretty simple error from Jono Holmes.
And that's how quickly an ultimate match can shift. We've just gone from 2-all to 4-2 for Perth in a couple of quick points.
It's a game of momentum, and especially in conditions like this, it's so easy for a really simple error to be quickly converted into runs on the board. And I think it's a case of this game, it's going to be a case of who can maintain their focus and minimise the number of small errors like that. Because, you know, if you give up the disc cheaply a few metres outside your end zone, teams and players this good are going to capitalise on that on every occasion.
That's right. You just need to put that aside and focus on the next point and those connections and look forward to, with confidence, to what's going to come.
Shepherd again with the pulling duties for Perth. As Matthews Hunter will look to steer this offense downfield. The rain and the wind having played a big part in this game. The slippery disc has led so far to a few bobbles as Grange finds plenty of yards. Nice flip back to Matthews Hunter. They're about 8 metres out, straight down that line. Looking for Mangan.
Just couldn't quite hold on to that. She was going with speed.
The pass just a little bit behind her made it difficult. Great effort from her to get a hand on it, but not able to hold on. Now Gann with the disc, having to pivot and work hard. Inside look.
Great work from Matt Dowell on that mark, and awesome intercept by Shea.
And they'll quickly punch it in. As you say, great effort from Dowell on the mark, making Gann's life really difficult, forcing him to pivot hard and eventually throw a really tricky inside shot. That outside into the inside break space, and Jamin Shea only too happy to gobble it up using his speed on that underneath.
Talking about momentum before, Max, we've had two changes of direction just outside of the end zone, and both teams capitalising in the point before, and then this time Canberra being able to just put that in when they get the turn. It was great to see.
And really the lesson is for these teams, you just can't give away the disc in a short field scenario, especially in that direction. Going back downwind, you know the other team will have no trouble finding the goal. We'll see whether the Perth team looks to adapt their strategy, looks for maybe a slightly earlier huck option, a bit of a huck and D. It's not the prettiest, it's not the most stylish way to play ultimate, but sometimes it's the most effective, and in conditions like these, sometimes it's what's called for. Jono Holmes, the big backhand pull. Fielded by Davey. And Canberra back in this arrowhead defence. Looks like Liu will be putting the mark on. Dawson and Monty sitting behind, just corralling the offence, pushing it towards the sidelines, which is where they want to keep it. But Perth find their way through. Nice quick hands to Davey in the centre. And things will slow back down as Canberra transitions into a match look. Dawson on Osborne. Osborne shoots deep. He's got Martins. Stevenson, 6'5".
Just plucking it out of the air.
Makes that look easy. He's the New Zealand import on this Canberra team. Now Liu. He doesn't have a lot of options downfield. He'll have to look to Monty coming underneath, and we've got a bit of a call. They'll discuss whether the disc will need to come back or whether it'll stay with Hannah Monty on the sideline. The AUL being played with the normal rules of ultimate regarding these kinds of things, so it's still self-refereed, etc. Game advisors are here to provide perspective and clarification on the rules, but of course, no more than that. Oh, Hannah Monty, lovely inside forehand to Liu. He shoots the big backhand, but it arcs away from his intended receiver in Jono Holmes.
Nice to see Jono Holmes going for a run deep there.
In recent years, he's preferred to spend a little bit more time behind the disc than downfield. And Canberra set back up this arrowhead.
What a Callahan!
Hannah Monty reads the play like a book, steps in, jumps up and pulls that one down from the sky.
Oh, this has got to be a penguin celebration.
Oh, the Canberra Freeze penguins.
Please tell me it is. I love it. That's awesome. Hannah Monty with the Callahan. That was genius.
And what a way to bring it back to 4-4. They were down to 4-2 just moments ago. And then all of a sudden, a short field turn from Perth, 1 point, and then a Callahan the next. And it's suddenly game on, 4-all. Canberra Freeze, they've fallen behind twice this game, but they've consistently shown their ability to come back. They went down 2-0 early, clawed it back to 2-all. Went down 4-2 and they've clawed it back to 4-all. We'll see whether they can maintain this momentum, continue their roll, find some consistency. That'll be the call. That'll be the call from Holmes right now. Keep doing what we're doing.
Looks like the sun's coming out, just warming us up a little bit here, warming up the players.
And that's Shepherd, usually known as a cutter, having to handle a little bit more for this Perth team. And that's Ellie Murray-Young. Working hard, looking for an option. And a big layout from Holmes. He can't secure that one, but he puts a lot of pressure on DeLuca. And again, we'll have a quick chat about the call on the field. In 6-on-6, there's just so much space, as you can see there. The field just feels like it's full of options. There's a forehand to the fat side.
Great to see the use of talking about space. Gotta love the fat side there. Really nicely read, saw the opportunity and just went for it. Great to see from Perth.
It's the second time we've seen that exact same shot from a similar position. And you can see just how deadly it is, especially as the winds just died off a little bit. It's so difficult to mark against. And Perth ruthless with taking that opportunity. And Perth regain their lead at 5-4. We'll see whether Canberra can respond. Canberra so far not able to find those fat side looks. They've been looking to play a bit more direct, straight down the field. We'll see whether they take a leaf out of the Perth book.
I think it'll be key for Canberra to get it moving quickly here and to really focus on those connections and try and just work it in first go.
We'll see whether they take your advice, Lena. Big pull from Davey. Get things kicked off again. Matthews Hunter to Shea. To Stevenson to Shea. The boys at the back running a little ISO with the women downfield. Matthews Hunter to Spragg. We haven't seen a lot of Spragg so far this game. Expect to see a bit more.
Great bid there.
Great bid, but Shea holds on despite the physical pressure coming from Davey. Stevenson goes down the line. That's Dow. And it looks like Grange bowls over her opposite number. Bowls over Brereton.
Some great quick movement from the Canberra Freeze there to get that disc, using the whole field, and really nice ISO, quick give and goes there. Worked well for them.
Yeah, it looked like a bit of a handler isolation move at the back, as you say, very effective.
Great work from Dow to Grange. No hesitation there from Dow, just taking the opportunity.
And trusting his receiver. When you've got receivers like Grange, it really makes your life as a thrower a whole lot easier. She's burst onto the scene and just in the last couple of years playing for the Australian under-24 team, the Blue Bottles in Perth. Earlier this year, her athleticism and quickness and safe hands make her a real deadly force in that cutting space downfield.
And Max, it seems to me that we've got sort of some similar lines being played from the Canberra coaches here, particularly with the women, often having Monty and Dawson on and Mangan at the same time. So good strategy, seems to be working for them. Some great connections. They've played together a lot.
Recognising that in this format they haven't had as much time together to prepare as maybe they'd like, so capitalise on the chemistry they do have that's already there. Canberra not able to slow down Perth as they move it quickly down this near side. Leaving the thrower unmarked. Canberra, I'm not sure whether this is an intentional defensive look or a bit of confusion, but it's rewarded. And Holmes looks to get things moving quickly as he finds Liu in the centre of the field. Liu living in Melbourne, a late addition to this team. Stevenson down the line to Dawson. She's got Liu streaming, but she doesn't want him. Comes forehand back across the field. Monty's underneath it.
Wow, great pickup from Monty.
And Stevenson, cool as you like it. Lays out just in case, and in the end gets the quick flip from Monty.
Bit of a chat from the Perth opposition, and then deciding that the Penguin gets the score.
And Dennis and Monty celebrate in true Canberra Freeze style as they bust out their best Penguin dance moves. A lot of faith being shown in Hannah Monty's speed there with that throw well out in front of her, but that faith was rewarded. Hannah Monty, one of the quickest women around.
The Perth doing really well on those match-up marks, but Canberra just taking the opportunity to look cross-field into the space, as you say, putting it out in front and trusting the receiver. But in terms of pressure on the mark, it was some really nice work from Perth Power there.
I just want to chat a bit more about the scorer of that goal, Troy Stevenson. He's a big deal in New Zealand, but for a lot of Australians who are watching, they may not be familiar with him despite his imposing frame. I know that he's very excited about coming out here and having an opportunity to mix it with the best in Australia.
Great shot from Martins there.
Perth off to the races, big backhand.
Fantastic. Fantastic run from Ely and a sensational throw there from
Amelia Toney with that backhand. Just moving up beautifully and quickly through the centre of the field. Once it got moving, it felt like Canberra was playing catch up the whole way, never really able to slow them down.
And we're back to evens. 6-all, Max. Bit of a shift in momentum there.
It's been a game of runs. Both teams finding some momentum for a little bit, getting a few in a row. But in conditions like this, playing clean, clinical offense just seems nigh on impossible. And as such, the lead's shifted a few different times. Canberra obviously up there for a moment at 6-5, but Perth pull it back to 6 apiece. Half is at 7, so this next point crucial in dictating the momentum for the rest of this match, as it's a game to 13. It'll be interesting to see whether the teams tweak their lines or stick to that chemistry that you were talking about earlier in terms of maintaining the connections, or do you try and bring across a few stars? We'll see what Canberra choose to do. Matthews Hunter to Dow. Seen a lot of those two together on the field. Shea. Again, having the 3 men back and the 3 women downfield. An interesting choice, recognising the speed of their women downfield. As Spragg comes underneath, she's not afraid to throw it. Big backhand. Shea's underneath it. Osborne in pursuit. And Shea maybe just misreads it a touch, has to turn at the last minute and go over his left shoulder. Does get a hand on it, but can't hold on.
That would have taken half for Canberra, but let's see what Perth can do here. The weather's cleared up a bit. The sun's come out and looking towards the half, Perth walking it up.
DeLuca.
Oh,
In and out of the hands. Dow looks to capitalise quickly. Loves that backhand. Instead goes back to Shea. Shea looks at what he's got downfield. Everybody cutting at once. Canberra want to clean this up. They get one nice cut to the front of the end zone, and Kim Spragg.
Grab from Kim Spragg. Goes with the one hand. Easy as you like.
And that's half for Canberra. They were down early. They pulled it back. Perth jumped out again and Canberra responded. And in the end, they managed to find their feet, find their rhythm, capitalise on their chemistry and get used to the conditions. And in the end, they take half 7-6.
And again, Max, we see that half taken with a turnover just outside of the end zone. We've had a few of them in this game. Obviously, the conditions are playing into it, but really interesting that that's been a feature.
It really is, and you can see the effect of the wind on both these teams. The completion rate's obviously still pretty high, but just that number of throwaways, that's not typical for players of this calibre to have that many throwaways in what is a pretty short half when we're playing games to 13. Obviously having an effect, and also you see it in the number of drops from both teams. But for me, the big difference in that is the blocks, Lena. Look at those blocks.
Absolutely, and that's been coming across the field from Canberra. Their defensive pressure, just reading where that disc is going and getting that pressure on, both on the mark, but those intercepts as well, Matt.
Oh, and it pays off over the course of the game. As you can see, while you're in isolation, any one block or any one defensive stop doesn't necessarily convert. Over the course of the game in conditions like this, you build the pressure by consistently getting those blocks, and then in the end you'll be rewarded on the scoreboard, as Canberra has been, as they take half 7-6.
Another thing you'd expect it at this level of ultimate, but awesome to see the number of pulls landing in, particularly with the conditions, which just means that the points get moving so quickly and that momentum is established straight away.
It is worth noting that Perth will be coming out on O on offense to start the second half, so things are still tight. And Canberra, by no means in the driving seat. They shouldn't feel comfortable with the lead that they have. There's still plenty of work to do if they want to come home with the win after Game 1 of the Australian Ultimate League for them.
And Max, anything in particular for you that stood out, that's worked well for either Canberra or Perth?
We've seen from Canberra a few times when they commence a point on defence, looking to come down in a gender mismatch, just choosing the matchup that they think are going to be most effective. They don't have a woman that they feel is tall enough to stop Brereton in the aerial space. She's easily the tallest woman on the field and a real downfield threat because of it. And so they've opted to put this taller Matt Dow on her and find another matchup with one of their shorter, speedier women on one of the shorter, speedier men on the other team. And they've been rewarded. They've managed to take away a lot of those deep looks from Perth that we would have expected them to be looking for early in the game. In terms of messages for Canberra and for Perth, though, what do you think the coaches are going to be looking to deliver to their teams at half?
I think I would hazard a guess that Lisa Hoog and Chris Stevens are just going to stay on message, look to hold on to that offence and really build those connections. We saw initially Canberra struggling to make those connections, particularly in the conditions, but they've settled and they've reset, and we're seeing some lovely quick movement as well. They're mixing it up, which is really great to see. Perth, we've got a couple of go-to handlers, especially with the men.
Ryan Davey in particular, as you say, is doing a body of work with the disc in hand, but it feels like he's sometimes been left a little bit stranded, hasn't necessarily had options forthcoming in support back in that handler space.
Yeah, we've seen Ash Martins really step back as a really sort of anchor handler, but also looking to put some of those shots deep, which is fantastic. And a couple of times, you know, they've really worked for Perth. It'll be interesting to see, as you say, how they adjust for the second half.
Yeah, her forehand to that fat side early in the game, when the wind was at its worst, was pretty impressive. And for me so far, the best display of just technical throwing skill we've seen in some very tough conditions. Absolutely not afraid of the wind, despite having seen almost all of her teammates struggle with it. Showed no fear, showed her skill, and found the goal in the end from that pass. And we'll see whether Perth continues to look to the fat side as it's brought them success early in this match. You see their coach, Max Howden, the exuberant Max Howden, as always, revving up his team, keeping them in a positive frame of mind despite the conditions that make it easy to just want to go home when it's cold and wet. But the sun's out now, and it's a close one. And Perth are on offense. They'll feel good as they head back downwind to get the second half commenced. Here, this Canberra Freeze Perth Power matchup.
And we've got the breeze still blowing those uniforms and ribbons, so still going to be an impact on the field. Let's see whether both teams can build those connections and keep the more settled nature that they had towards the end of that half coming into the second half of this game.
Interestingly, we didn't see Perth pull out any of the zone looks that we saw Canberra do on defence. I mean, maybe that's a product of their less preparation time together. Obviously, those kinds of things, being unique to the 6-on-6 format, require a little bit more preparation, a little bit more drilling and practice before they're game ready. But we'll see whether they do pull out some kind of zone. And there we've got a brick for the first time this game. But
that was my commentator's curse for pointing out the pulls in.
And Shepherd will take the disc back to the centre of the field. Interesting to see Shepherd behind the disc coming into this match. Myself, and I imagine many others, would have expected to see him cutting downfield. He's recently returned from the World Ultimate Club Championships with a silver medal after playing with Colony. Big backhand. Almost caught Troy Stevenson napping, but Hugh Osborne not quite able to get it, and in the end Stevenson knocks that one away. But again, that's that fat side look.
Yep.
This time the backhand going the other direction, but Perth, clearly that's part of their game plan and something they'll keep looking for. Dawson.
Oh, a bit of a bobble there.
Dennis can't quite complete the pass to Holmes. Perth will look to move it quickly. But Canberra does a good job of slowing them down.
Another bobble there, this time going into Dawson's hands.
Dawson back to Stevenson. He looks to give and go up line, and he gets it back. He'll shoot the big forehand downfield. He's got Monty in pursuit, but with the wind as it is, that one was always trailing away and accelerating away from Hannah Monty. And despite her best efforts, she can't reel it in. But they have forced Perth to take it back the full length of the field. They're not giving up those short field turns that we saw were really costly in the first half. And maybe that'll be proving decisive.
And Canberra coming down again in that defence that we've seen them put on quite a few times, with the male player on the mark, and then Dawson and Monty marking that upfield position.
Dawson sitting in that lane, causing trouble. Forces a tricky pass across field.
Wow.
Holmes looks to capitalise quickly, but doesn't have anything immediately available. Forced to dump. Nice around forehand. Holmes looks for the cheeky inside. Instead goes back for Dawson. Back to Holmes. Players cutting everywhere in the end zone, but no one able to provide an easy open shot.
And another one from Jono Holmes.
He loves that scuba. And Hannah Monty loves that corner. And that's a goal to Canberra. They break out a half to take it to 8-6. Back up into the wind as well, which will mean that their next deep point will be back downwind. Another opportunity to extend this lead.
Great point for Canberra to get there. Perth just not being able to connect, looking to go back to the middle again, but the pressure from that zony looking D from Canberra just making them hesitate a little bit, and the pass not quite coming off.
They had them trapped right on that sideline, which is just such a tough spot to be for anyone. But when you've got a big mark on you and then a couple of agile, explosive players like Dawson and Monty sitting in the lane, it's always going to be tough. And in the end, Canberra was rewarded Matt Dow now with the pulling duties. Dow, the most capped Australian player ever, having played more World Ultimate Guts championships than anybody else.
I wonder how long that's going to stand for, Max.
I'd imagine for quite a while. He's a true phenom of Australian Ultimate, having played Dingoes 5 times. 2000, 2004, 2008, 2012 and 2016. And he remembers them all fondly. And this pull will be taken from the sideline by Martens. She's marked by Spragg. 2 formidable throwers matching up on each other. Great to watch. Perth work it across the field, opening up the width. Nicely done. Ely throws a backhand. And that's a nice forehand down the line.
Was that
Not sure if he quite got a fingertip on it.
Definitely pressure there.
Yeah, was it just a phantom D? But it was enough, whatever it was. And Dow brings it back up. There's Spragg running deep, but he doesn't want it. Grange comes underneath, but again, looks off, finds Shea. Shea immediately looking for Spragg, but just too high. She gets a finger to it, but can't hold on. Perth get it about 15 metres out. Davey round backhand into space. Ely does well. It's a lovely break throw from Ryan Davey. Shows his class. Goes around the mark. Finds Ely.
Just dropping a little bit at the end there, and Ely did really well to keep his eyes on that for the goal.
In wind like this, people often talk about the difficulty throwing, and no doubt it's really hard to throw in wind this strong. But we don't often pay attention to just how difficult it can be to catch. The disc is liable to move at the very last moment, bobble up, bobble down, go left, go right, turn over. So credit to Ely for a nice grab there, and a lot of these players will be having to pay a lot more attention to what is usually a catch that they barely think twice about. We're back to 8-7, both teams trading now out of half.
Let's see if Perth keeps that match defence that they've been playing, really active on the mark and sticking with their players, a lot of pressure on the cuts.
Shepparton is preferred, arcing outside in backhand. Impossible to catch in nice conditions. Downright deadly in conditions such as these, and Dow doesn't even try. He lets that one roll out the back and he'll walk it back up. He's enough of a veteran to know it's not worth the effort, not worth the risk. He's marked by Gann. They move to the far side. It's Mangan. Doesn't have a lot. She has to come back into the centre to Dow.
Great pass.
We've got a pick call. Mangan recently playing AFL in the WVFL for Geelong, bringing her physicality and athleticism back to ultimate. Spragg to Matthews Hunter on the near sideline. Centres, finds its way back to Spragg in the centre. Nice inside forehand. Plenty of contact.
Well done holding on to that from Matt Dow. And we've got
a hammer way out from Jamin Shea. What a take. That's a signature throw from Matt Dow. He loves a good hammer. He's never met one he doesn't like. But Jamin Shea having to go horizontal. The two-handed pancake layout grab. Unconventional, but makes it work.
Absolutely. Managed to get all the way under that. I think Matt Dow's heart was probably in his mouth for a moment then, but Jamin Shea making Dow look good.
He certainly was asking a lot from his receiver with that throw. Put it a long way out in front. But Shea delivers. And maybe that will be the momentum shifting play. In conditions like these, it's often just the team that keeps working the hardest. And it's difficult to do, but when you have your teammates making plays like that, that can be what gives you the drive, and we'll see whether it inspires Canberra to greater things as they now retain their 2-point lead as they continue to trade up at 9-7. And Davey with the disc. The Perth team opting to play horizontal to get things started. Big backhand downfield, well out in front. Loud grab from Calaviotis.
Can't quite hold on to it. Great run down for the disc and just can't quite keep his hands on that one.
Great effort just to get hands on it, but kind of went in and out of his breadbasket.
Canberra Freeze coming down in match D that time, a bit of a change up, and Perth looking to use that area at the back. Stevenson
finds Dawson on the near sideline. She shoots one long. That's going to sit up. Monty's underneath it. Great grab, one-handed above her head. Quick dish to the far side to Stevenson and back to Monty.
Lovely work from Canberra, working that disc really quickly, taking advantage of space and communication.
There wasn't any rush to score that goal after the big grab from Monty. It wasn't like she was looking to get it done immediately. Happy to dump, another little sideways pass, and then the easy shot to Monty again in the goal. And so far, interestingly, from Stevenson, I think coming into this league, a lot of players would have expecting to see him downfield a lot. When you've got a stature that big, 6'5", 201 centimetres, you'd imagine he's going to be downfield, ruling the skies. We've seen him behind the disc quite a lot, take a few shots.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see how these players are adapting to each other and you know, shifting positions throughout the points as well.
Canberra seeming to generally favour the male handlers and the female cutters, probably recognising that their men, while they bring experience, have also got a fair few years in their legs and may not be able to, as consistently as they used to, dominate the downfield space. Probably the nicest way of saying it. Whereas their women, absolute athletes, every single one of them. We've seen Dennis and Monty make great plays already. Expect to see more from the others. It's Freeze back into this arrowhead. It's found them success before and they see no reason to change it. And Perth just rush that pass a little bit. Just pops over the top and onto the turf. Holmes will have to pick it up on this near sideline. It's a difficult spot to be with the disc. We'll see where he looks to get it moving. Goes central, through the hands. Can it be recovered?
Not quite. Thought Dennis was going to get there then.
Perth looked to respond quickly, but Holmes redeems himself, plucks that one out, sees it coming a mile off, goes to Dennis. Dennis to Monty. Monty working it up this far sideline. Stevenson back into the centre. Canberra not afraid to cram it down that far cram hole. But if it brings them success, why change it? Dennis with that lefty around forehand.
Great pickup from Holmes.
Inside forehand. He was really wanting that one. You can see he just kept pivoting further and further. Probably pushed it a little bit. And Canberra will have to play a bit more defence.
I think Perth really need to get the disc moving quickly here. Use the space that's given to them and keep it moving.
Oh, and a big layout from Holmes. But Martins holds on. No, Murray Young holds on. Apologies.
Great hands there from Murray Young.
Shepherd. Back to Gann. Gann, another Sydney sider who's come across with Shepherd to play for this Perth team. Marked by the long-limbed Stevenson, makes it difficult on the mark. Ellie Murray Young looks back to a dump. Finds Osborne. He goes inside forehand. Finds some space on this break side of the field. Again, goes to turf. He's got space up line. He puts the forehand. It sits up. Monty in pursuit. And Rachel DeLuca does well under pressure. Hannah Monty was steaming down her neck. But she was cool under the pressure and secures that one to keep within striking distance.
A really nice grab from DeLuca there. The pass didn't quite go where the thrower was intending, and she did really well to stay under it, like you say, with that pressure from Monty on the D.
It's so easy to start worrying about the thundering feet behind you in that kind of situation and get in your own head. But she does well, keeps her cool.
And Perth get one back.
They do indeed, and that's a timeout call as the team's closing in rapidly on the end of this game. It is a game to 13. Canberra only 3 points away. Really in the driver's seat. They were slow to get going at the start of this match, going down a few points early. But this whole second half, they've looked really clean and really smooth.
Yeah, and I think too that while Canberra has, you know, maybe thrown some unconventional throws or ones you might not necessarily expect to see in these conditions, they've actually come off for them. Perth playing it a bit more by the book, and it'll be interesting to see if at this point in time they decide to mix it up at all and take any risks, or just keep with the strategy that the coaches have laid down for the team.
I really do hope they go for that more risky option. I mean, both because it's fun to watch, but also you can't just keep doing what you're doing in their position. You're down 2, you're within a few points at the end of the game, you've got to roll the dice. At this point, you've got to mix something up. Yeah. Even if you risk going out the back door, it's worth the opportunity in my mind.
Yeah, I feel like in that first half we really had those momentum shifts, whereas so far with the second half, Canberra seems to have been steaming ahead. So it'll be interesting to see what Perth come up with.
I know Anna Rigacki, the great Australian coach, has coached many a team. One of her philosophies is don't lose a game without flipping the table over in search of another strategy. Don't die wondering, I guess. Try everything you've got. There's no point trading this one out to lose. Got to try something different, Perth. We'll see what they do. Big backhand to get things started. And that'll float down into the hands of Matthews Hunter. He's been doing a lot of work behind the disc. Just been that safe option when they've needed it. Hasn't taken a lot of risks.
Oh, great throw from Grange.
To Sprague. To Mangan. She finds Dow. Dow, backhand, layout bid.
Fantastic bid there.
From Ryan Davey. Does well to get across for that one.
Right on the end zone line there. Great defence.
He finds Ely underneath. Ely looks to dump. Finds Davey again. Back to Ely. Comes near side. They're just looking to dump and swing, playing safe here, Perth. And now the shot comes. In space.
Oh.
The bidding, Calaviotis. Can't reel that one in.
Just that touch too far again. Thought he was going to get his hand to that outside edge, but not quite.
Matthews Hunt underneath. Another great bid from Perth. They've really ramped up the defensive intensity as Ash Martins crashes through Caitlin Grange. Grange will get that one back. It's an uncontested foul. Martins not afraid of the physicality. And Grange, that throw a little wayward. Gives that one away cheaply, unfortunately. Davey, back to Martins. They're within striking distance now. Layout bid.
Fantastic work.
Mangan responds in kind. You can feel the energies just lifted from both teams. The intensity and desire on defense is cranked up.
Shea.
Shea shoots deep. Grange can't quite get it. Perth look to move it quickly. Ely to Calaviotis to Martins. She shoots the forehand. Sits up a little bit. Shea can't pull that one down. The intensity is ramping up. Both teams feeling that this is a momentum shifting moment.
Oh, good pressure from Grange there. Can't quite get the mark on.
It's a lovely inside shot, and it'll come back. They can have a bit of a chat about this one.
As you say, Max, intensity has just suddenly lifted. We've had layout Ds, we've had huge aerial bids there. Really exciting point so far.
So often the case, it feels like one person lays out and everyone else remembers that they can too. Martin's forehand to Brereton. She's marked by Spragg, couple of metres out. Uses her legs, big round backhand to Ely for the goal.
Matthews Hunter shaking his head there. Just couldn't quite leave his feet. Lovely pass to Peter Ely for the goal.
Yeah, Brereton making great use of her long limbs, gets around the mark, throws the break backhand into the centre of the field. Matthews Hunter rues an opportunity to get his nice clean white shorts dirty. And it's now 10-9 Perth. They're one away from pulling back even.
Well, I certainly think that layout block on the end zone line just
from Ryan Davey.
Fantastic, and really gave Perth some confidence there.
It's in those moments sometimes that just a single play by one player can really inspire the rest of the team to lift their effort, and you saw it. Following that, Martins made a great play. Brereton picked up her work rate. Calviotis laid out in the end zone. It was all happening. We'll see whether that drive and desire continues. Holmes fields the pull. DeLieu looks to give go with Stevenson. Work it up to the brick mark. Back to Holmes in the centre. Loves the hammer. He hasn't been afraid of overheads all game.
Wait, bit of
plenty of
there.
Contact as Shepherd barrels Leo over. A little bit sheepish. He knows that was never going to stand, and things will get restarted quickly. He's in the centre of the field now to Dawson. She shoots. She's never been afraid of shooting long.
Hey, straight to Monty. When Dawson decides she's going to put it, she puts it. There's no stopping her. Great look for Monty there. Again, in space in the end zone. Couple of defenders hanging around, but really that shot was a nice one from Dawson.
It really was. Just about 25 metres, kind of that mid-range huck. Beautifully pinpoint onto the chest of Dawson. Despite the best efforts of Osborne, he couldn't get involved, and that's 11-9 for Canberra. They're closing in. They're 2 points away. Despite the lifted intensity from Perth, Canberra has kept their ship steady as they sail towards victory. And on this line, we've got Dennis, we've got Mangan, we've got Matthews Hunter, we've got Stevenson, we've got Holmes. It's all the usual suspects out there playing defence. We'll see whether they can get another block. Big outside in backhand this time from Holmes. To Martins. Mangan now playing in this disrupting role in the edge of the arrowhead with Dawson. And Brereton shoots a backhand down the line to Ely in acres of space. It's a lovely shot from her. Ely on the doorstep, pivoting, working hard. And Liu.
Fantastic work by the Canberra Freeze to mark up in the end zone and put that pressure on the throw. Ely having to look back and Liu coming through for that intercept.
Great hustle. Never say die attitude from Liu. Would have been so easy to have given up on that one. And Stevenson shoots deep. He's got players underneath it. Can she get there?
Dennis, fantastic layout grab there.
Dishes to
Dawson and back to Dennis. Composure under pressure from Adelaide Dennis then. That is classic. Running into space, putting her body on the line for that huge throw, and then calm as you like, reset to Dawson. That is a classic play.
Peter Ely needs to take lessons from Adelaide Dennis, I think. He got caught staring at the end zone after his reception of a big huck. Ended up having to turn and dump a little quickly, which led to a turnover. There you saw Dennis take the great grab, but instead of trying to throw the goal, very content to immediately dump and then go work with her legs and provide the next option. Great exemplary play from her, leading from the front, putting Canberra on the precipice of a historic win.
12-9.
Match point for Canberra. Perth will have to hold this offensive point and then get 3 breaks in a row if they want to secure this one.
I think they can do it, Max.
It's a big, tall order. It's a big task to undertake. I wouldn't put it past them. You've seen that they have the ability to make big plays, but whether they can string them together will be the real question. As Martins picks this one up. It's DeLuca, apologies. She's looking for Shepherd, having to work hard. Shea, lovely block.
Huge mark from Kim Sprague there, putting heaps of pressure on DeLuca, and Shea gets the intercept.
Dow to Sprague, 6 metres out. Centres back to Dow. She goes up line, doesn't come. Monty, hammer, break side, Shea's underneath it. And what a way to finish. What a way to take the game. Matt Dowell hammered at Jamin Shea. We saw that connection earlier in the game for a hell of a highlight. And they'll cap this game with another one. This time, Dowell puts it on his chest, probably how he wanted it the first time, to be fair.
Yeah, look, you can't really, the Matt Dowell hammers, you can't say no to them when they end up like that.
No, he's never met a hammer he wasn't willing to throw. And you could see there all the cutters on the Canberra Freeze team knew that when the disc got into Matt Dowell's hands, as they all streamed to that hammer spot on the field, they knew it was coming.
Yeah, and generated from fantastic pressure on the mark from Kim Sprague there, and a turnover again, just outside of the end zone. We haven't had that for a while, but a bit of a feature of this game, I have to say.
Yes, if there's one lesson to be learnt for the other teams watching this match, it's the value or the cost that a team will pay if you give the disc up close to your own end zone. Throughout this match, the team that did that the most was eventually punished. And in this case, it was Perth. They just made that same mistake one too many times, and Canberra has come away victorious in their first match of the Australian Ultimate League. Thanks for joining us. I've been Max Tenstrom. I've been alongside Lena Hall. Do stick around for the future matches of the Australian Ultimate League. There's plenty more to come, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks very much.
The Australian Ultimate League is only possible thanks to the generous support of our major partners. Bendigo Private Banking Services. Visit their website, bendigoprivate.com.au, to help you manage all your personal or business banking needs. Discraft, the leaders in flying discs for over 25 years. Their Ultrastar is the preferred disc of all World Championship events and the Australian Ultimate League. And Zone Ultimate Custom Sports Apparel. Check out their new range of custom warm-up jackets and pants at zoneultimate.com.